inflation, they hate riots, and they hate black women.
They don't
and they hate trans people.
Oh, God, John, we're not
Dude,
gonna...
they just spent hundreds of millions of dollars
don't hate
demonizing trans people. And that is disgusting.
Yeah,
that
we shouldn't talk politics.
Oh, we are back on Bill Maher's Club Random podcast. And who has he got today? He's got ultra woke actor Jon Cryer, who was in 2.5 Men with Charlie Sheen years ago. I have to admit, I think I watched most of 2.5 Men when Charlie Sheen was in it. It was pretty funny, pretty degenerate, but funny, no doubt about it. And Jon Cryer was the perfect straight man. I mean, he was a great actor in that show. He was the perfect straight man for Charlie Sheen. But I've never actually heard him interviewed or anything like that. But here he is on Bill Maher, and turns out he is very woke. He's very liberal, and he knows that evil right-wingers hate all the good things, all the things that he and his ilk think are good, but which some of the rest of us think, some of the rest of us prefer the good, the beautiful, and the true. And that is the big difference between what I would call traditionalists like myself and like many people who watch my videos. I am a traditionalist. I would not even call myself conservative, because I think conservatives haven't conserved a damn thing, unfortunately. Not in the United States and not here in Europe where I live. They have not even conserved the ladies' room, much less, the basic underpinnings that make Western civilization so great. So let's get into it.
But I don't know, sometimes people say things that trigger me. And of course, we just had the election, and I feel like my conscience is very clear. I warned everybody about Trump, and then I warned them about what would get him reelected, which was stupid wokeness, which is what got him reelected. So I feel my conscience is very clear that I told you, and I told you, and I told you, and I lost fans for it. Lots of the super woke, that I'm not woke enough for them. Yeah, but I think I had it right. That kind of stuff is what lost the election for the Democrats. It's in all...
Maybe part of it? I don't know. I think a lot...
they have polling on it.
I think it's inflation. I think Americans hate inflation.
That certainly was part of it.
They hate inflation, they hate riots, and they hate black women. They hate trans people.
Oh, God, John, we're not
Dude,
gonna...
they just spent hundreds of millions of dollars demonizing trans people. And that's disgusting.
Yeah, we shouldn't talk politics.
They spent hundreds of millions of dollars dehumanizing trans people? Did they? Don't remember that.
Okay, we shouldn't. We shouldn't. Great. We don't have to.
No. And this, I have this kind of relationship with people on the right also who it's just going to take so long to even have this discussion. Mm-hmm. And I want, just like I would like to deprogram them, I feel like there's things that don't get in your bubble on the left that I would love to deprogram, but it's probably not the place to do it. But
you can try. if that's how you want to spend your leisure hours.
No, I mean
deprogramming Ducky. There's a spinoff. There's a spinoff. But I feel like the immigration argument gets sidetracked because people just assume that there's a lot of generalizations about immigrants that dehumanize them and are untrue. You are mad that they let that many immigrants in because you think they increase crime? Because they don't. Because they increase they decrease wages? Well, no, they don't. There's a whole bunch of arguments that anti-immigration people make, and you say, okay, Democrats left them in.
I'm not an anti-immigration people.
I said you say.
What I said was
wait a minute. Wait, okay. So you're the one saying Democrats are letting in immigrants, and they punted it. Okay, you're absolutely right. Immigration did go up during those years.
Asylum. They changed the definition of asylum, and they immediately reversed Trump's. Stay in Mexico or wait in Mexico or something. He had a different
chill
policy.
Out in Mexico.
I mean, chill out in Mexico. Yes.
Just fucking chill, man. Wait there.
And we were still, letting in, as we should. We are a nation of immigrants, and we need immigrants.
There you go.
But most Americans felt, including lots of Democrats, and people of color, and he won the Latino vote by half. You know, come on, man. Like, at a certain point, everybody was around the idea that, okay, immigration, fine, but it has to be somewhat orderly, and not anyone who...
Yes, and again...
And asylum had a certain specific meaning, which went up in the air. They overcorrected.
You know, you could be right, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I also feel like obviously, you can say Democrats took too long to address it, but then they did. And Trump, of course, killed it. You know, so he doesn't care about that. And again, you've been outspoken.
That's true too.
And I appreciate that, by the way, for you, that you were being outspoken. I appreciate that you lost fans. You know what? They needed more free time. It's better that they don't watch your show.
All right, so Jon Cryer, what can we say? So immediately they're on to immigration, which is definitely, I think, the pressing issue across the Western world. It is in Europe, where I live. It is in the Anglosphere, and Europe and the Anglosphere are basically what we call the Western world. Yeah, it is the number one issue. And of course, it's overly simplified. This woke idiot, or liberal idiot, I would say. I have no idea if he's woke. He sounds it, though. But he's definitely a liberal idiot. For them, immigration, or for the right, too, to be honest, I think the so-called conservatives do not argue the matter correctly. There are many aspects to immigration, many layers, many dimensions, let's put it that way. But Bill Maher brought up a good point. He said, yes, they completely, you know, everybody who's coming now is an asylum seeker or a refugee. Asylum seeker, yeah, that definition has been completely corrupted. Because, you know, like these immigrant trains or these immigrant, what do they call them? Immigrant caravans coming up through Central America, through Mexico, up to the southern border. They are literally coached on what to say, and they all claim that they're seeking asylum. And, you know, even remain in Mexico, I think, frankly, is just a dumb policy. Basically, we just have to say, no, sorry, we're full. We do not need any more so-called asylum seekers or immigrants or whoever at all, because we don't. We simply do not need them. So, bam, just stop the flow and build the wall, or if building a wall is just too difficult across the southern border, which it is in places, you know, then perhaps divert some of those resources that we're sending to Ukraine and Israel, divert them to enforcement along the southern border. It really is that simple. Next, of course, is legal immigration, which I also think needs to be stopped, basically. We need a complete moratorium at this point. There's no point even discussing it anymore. Just complete moratorium and several years to sort out the system. And during that period, we can do a lot of things. You know, we have to just complete moratorium, expel all illegals, expel all immigrants who've committed a crime, legal or illegal, obviously. A lot of things can be done. We need several years of breathing room, and then, of course, immigration has always been a part of the United States, obviously, but not immigration from everywhere in the world. That hasn't always been a part of the United States. For the vast majority of our history, of the United States history, it was immigration from Europe, from European countries. That only changed in 1965. I mean, there was the odd exception. For example, there was a wave of Chinese immigration, which was planned and executed and then stopped and was for a specific purpose. Fine. You know, things like that happen, but our immigration policy was sound. It had, and even then there were problems. There were social issues, even between different Europeans, populations that came. So, just, his immediate, Jon Cryer's immediate thing was, oh, immigrants don't, they don't raise crime. Well, that's probably true in a lot of places, When a bunch of Latino immigrants take over South Central LA or whatever it was, they take over historically black neighborhoods in LA. Yeah, I bet crime does go down, actually, in that neighborhood. So I would like to see a lot more specific data about that. But the fact is, there's always going to be when you let in masses of immigrants, there is always going to be a subset of them that commit crimes. Can't avoid it. And those crimes wouldn't be committed if they hadn't been let in the first place. So anyway, let's get back to the video.
Gutted them, but only so I could get to the end where I said, I'm mad at the Democrats because the issues that are important to me, because that's always a big thing in elections, what issues are important to
Bill Maher.
to you, the voter? My issues are democracy and the environment. And now, because the Democrats did what I told them not to do and went to crazy town way too often, now you blew it. You blew it. You blew it.
I did not. But
And
go ahead.
lost everything.
Wow.
So I have no one to champion and defend my issues.
But I would
Democracy and the
say all
environment.
of the wokeness that outraged you so much was Republican framing, was right-wing media framing.
Oh,
that I mean,
God.
again,
John,
yes,
that's
I
not
am
the
telling you
case.
this.
No.
I am that
It's
is the
not
case.
framing.
That is the case.
I do
Bill
this for a
Maher.
I do this for a living.
Okay.
I have a whole staff to vet this. I'm very suspicious of everything from the left or the right. So if you're telling me that I've been hoodwinked,
Oh, no, I'm telling you you've been hoodwinked.
I haven't.
I think everybody deals with framing in different ways. You can either deal with the frame and say, no, I'm afraid you're wrong, which I've seen you do. You say you can,
Correct.
Or you can say, wait, I don't even believe in the framing. I disagree with the whole framing of the question.
I believe in facts. I believe, for example, we're going to get into this now.
Okay.
But like, America is the only country that does transgender policy the way we do now. We used to be closer to Sweden.
I'm sorry, you got to be more specific.
Kids can, what do you call gender affirmation? Have the operation.
Okay, you understand, first of all, that the most prevalent gender affirming surgery is breast removal, tissue removal for cisgender male boys. Okay,
but
so
we're not
understand,
talking about that.
Okay, but the reason I'm
Jesus, that's not gender affirming surgery. That's like fat kids who are getting fat removed from their chest because they've got so fat because America is a fat country. Sorry to say it. I'm overweight too myself, so don't get me wrong, but we got to call a spade here.
I'm bringing it up is because if people are okay with people are always saying we don't want young people making those decisions for lifelong decisions when they're still very young. I mean, that seems to be what people are
well, that's where Europe, where all the liberal countries that we used to be aligned with on this issue a few years ago, we are not. I'm just saying, let's not even get into the details.
Honestly,
let's just get into the fact. Just start with the fact that America does this in a way nobody else does. That doesn't mean, I'm not saying it's necessarily definitely wrong, although I do think it is, but no other country does self-diagnosis by children, no age limit.
That's not what's occurring.
That is what is occurring.
It's not occurring.
Or it certainly
and by
can.
the way, the thing you're talking about is a thing called the Dutch Protocol, which obviously started in Holland.
Started in Holland. Yes, I'm familiar.
Yes, okay. So you're saying U.S. doesn't use the things that Europe does, but
which
they
abandoned. They
did not abandon it.
Yeah, they did.
No, and we can argue about the Cass review as well. I'm aware of it. Yes,
England.
which its conclusions did not match its own data. But okay, we'll talk about that later if you're open to that.
That's too in the weeds.
Okay, but see, that's what I'm saying is the truth is in the weeds, dude. And
unfortunately,
for
the audience too in the weeds.
Okay.
I mean, it's. And maybe for me at this point, because I don't have the Cass report right in my mind, many people who are saying, what is that? A British woman who is a pediatrician and also was, this was her field of study.
There was a big controversy about the NHS, about the NHS transgender care. And unfortunately, the NHS is under a lot of scrutiny for many things because national health care is often very controversial because
Jesus Christ, I don't even know where to start with this. How do you even have a conversation about mutilating children, whether it's physically mutilating them by having them undergo surgery to mutilate their bodies, to change their bodies, or mutilating them by giving them drugs which stop the natural process of puberty, it's mutilation one way or the other. And who cares if some European countries did it or not, or I don't care who else is doing it or who else isn't doing it. Nobody should be doing it. And it should be, you shouldn't even have to have a conversation about something so blatantly evil. It's just, it blows my mind. It's sickening. And yeah, then he started to get on the NHS in the UK. Yeah, the NHS has plenty of problems. But the NHS itself is not controversial, as far as I know, in the UK, in the sense, the concept of having a National Health Service. National Health Service absolutely can work in countries that are working, in countries that are healthy and more or less homogeneous, have a native, whose native population hasn't been swamped by millions of people from wildly different and incompatible cultures. Then it can work. It can work. To a certain extent, different countries do it differently. We have, where I live in Belgium. Actually, I should look into gender-affirming care in this country. I don't know anything about it. Maybe I can talk about it in another video. But we have an NHS-type system. We also, kind of a public plus private system, which works. It does work. I've always been very happy with it. In any case, that's by the by. But whenever I just hear this discussion, like, how can you even have a debate about it? Please let me know in the comments. It's, for me, it's not even up for debate. Shouldn't even, if you want to debate this, as far, whether we need, I think it's good to give gender affirming care, i.e. to give powerful drugs to children to stop natural bodily processes and functions, or to give them surgery. Yeah, you can try. I will be respectful to you in the comments if you feel that that's a positive thing or a good thing or something that should be done. But as far as I'm concerned, if there's a bunch of people who want to do that, then they can set up their own country and they can all move there and do it. But no healthy society should be even discussing this. It should be discussing, or the only thing that should be discussed is how to well, I don't want to say anything I shouldn't say here on this video. But again, and it's not a question of hating trans people or anything like that, but you have to have a baseline, a civilized baseline for your society. Otherwise, your society will fall apart, as is happening right now in real time in Western societies. So, yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. I'm always happy to hear from you. Been getting a lot of comments on videos recently, and I do reply to some of them. But I do read them all, so I appreciate it. And in the meantime, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.